good evening. Hello. Hope yous are all doing well, keeping safe and loving FPL. Welcome to the lounge, the FPL lounge. The doors are open and you're all welcome to say hello. Good few folk in already, Boona, as per usual. As yous all know, just a relaxed chat about all things FPL while getting to know our studio guests. So if you've got any questions, need to get any FPL things off your chest, then get them in the chat and we'll get through as many as we can over the next hour. If you also want to link up with Boona or myself throughout the week, you know where all the social details are in the description below. Can't do the show on my own, so please welcome the man that is still fighting for his very own European Fantasy Super League. It's our very own Boona. Hello.
Good evening all. How you doing, Llama?
Yeah, not too bad. I've got one more day of work and then I'm off for a week, so I'm looking forward to just chilling for a full week. What about you?
Yeah.
Glad the gyms are open?
Week. Oh yeah, I remember next week's that pod that we're doing over lunch, isn't it? Awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm good, mate.
Nice.
Good. I'm all right. The weather's been quite nice the last few days, albeit it could be a little bit warmer.
Yes.
And albeit I don't have any players in FPL today, so I'm going to have to put some money on some goals from Iheanacho Vardy, which I'm sure our guest will be able to give me some tips on today. I'm
pretty sure he will. Will we get him in?
Yeah, go on then.
Nice one. As you all know, you know who we've got because you can see it in the thumbnail, but let's introduce him anyway. On this evening's show alongside us in the studio, we're going to have a guy that's odds-on favourite with you folks. Boona gave me odds of 4 to 6 on, that I wouldn't mention odds in the intro, so I'm pretty sure he's going to be pocketing some money. This evening's guest is head of social and content at Odds Checker, whilst also helping out on Who Scored, and he is a very busy man indeed, who also has a little penchant for FPL. Such a great guy. Let's get to know Match of the Dave better by delving into his world and how it collides and clashes with FPL. They say that 1 in every 7 friends has a gambling addiction. My money's on Dave. With over 20,000 followers on Twitter, it's an honour to have in the studio beside us the hard-working, multi-talented Jake Gallagher. Hello.
How you doing, chaps?
You doing all right?
That was beautiful. I could listen to that all night.
So chuffed to have you on the show, Jake. How's your week been? You been kept busy?
Yeah, all good. My week is just like you, actually. It was my last working day. I'm off tomorrow.
Nice.
So fake Friday for me, and what better way to celebrate and come on a FPL pod with you boys. My week is actually going. My FPL week is going average at best. However, I do have one Jamie Vardy who's just announced that they've just released the team news and he's starting tonight. So I've got a beer in hand.
Nice.
And I'm awaiting a brace.
Well, I've got Iheanacho. So we'll see how that one pans out.
I've got neither, so screw the pair of you.
So as everyone knows, Jake, in the chat, Boona and I like to ask you a kind of like the normal questions that we ask all our guests that we've had on our shows, and it's just a bit about kind of really getting to know you better, I suppose. The chat will probably have their own FPL headaches and other questions that they may want to put to you, so we'll get to them in a second or so. But first of all, who is Jake? What do you get up to? What's your day job? Let's get to know you better.
Yeah, so you mentioned I had a social at Odds Checker. We're first and foremost really an odds comparison affiliate betting firm. Okay. And more recently, I've also taken over just sort of the stewardship, really, and the overseeing of WhoScored.com, which I'm sure a lot of the listeners might have who they are. Sort of a football data website, Perfect. The largest football data website. Perfect if you're looking for some FPL advice. Actually,
I'm always looking for advice, Jake.
You see, Jake, I've got some issues with the app. The app sometimes doesn't update.
Listen, let's not talk about that now.
No, excellent stuff, Jake. So that obviously keeps you busy. That is your day job. Head and knee deep into it.
Sure, yeah. I'm also I'm a founder in a company called the Social Sup, and we're sort of a social agency, a very small social agency, and our accounts or mainly on Twitter, you might have heard of Football Tweet or Deadline Day Live, and we run those too.
Oh, excellent. So how did you get yourself involved in all this stuff? Is this something that you've been involved in for years, I take it, with these other things coming on, the more you've grown, I suppose, yourself?
Yeah, so I went to university, came out of university in 2008 wanting to be a PE teacher, but in 2008 with the recession, it hit hard, and I was looking for jobs. There wasn't any opportunities, so took just sort of a dead-end job in a local pub and started Football Tweet in my spare time as just a Twitter account to just talk football with my friends, and then branching out on the Twitter sphere.
Excellent.
And within a couple of months, I had advertisers asking to advertise on the channel because it had a big football audience, and it's sort of young men, concentrated football audience. So I realised that I could probably make a career out of social media. So quit my dead-end job at the pub and went into social media. And sort of 8, 9, 10 years later, whatever it is, I've got fingers in pies and head of social at Oddschecker.
No, brilliant stuff. Excellent.
Really interesting looking website. The social sup. Is that the socialsup.com? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit more about it? It looks quite interesting.
Well, so is it live? Let me just. I've just gone to the website. Yeah. So, it's live there. So, the best way of explaining it is we can do one of three things. We can sort of take over your social media management for you for like a small company or even a large company. We also do some like influencer marketing and act as an influencer ourselves, because we have a sort of a range of large Twitter accounts at Football Tweet, at Deadline Day Live. You've probably heard of Boring Milner.
Yeah.
Not Match of the Day. There's a few. There's sort of like meme accounts, and it's just a large audience of like 2.5, 3 million. And then we do some bits and pieces of consultancy as well, just helping people out on social and pointing them in the right direction to hit their business targets, really.
Perfect.
Amazing.
Now know where to go, Una.
Yeah.
We'll get the leg up.
Shall we end the stream and then have a one-to-one call? No, brilliant. Let's give a quick shout out as well to the guys that are joining us this
Certainly,
evening.
go for it.
We've got the regulars in the chat. We've got Nihal joining us, Sam Pillay. We have got John McEwen joining us, Tom, Nima, and Natasha's there as well as a number of others. So cheers everyone for joining us this evening. Hope all your game weeks are going shit, if we're completely honest, because we're rivals at the end of the day, right? Come on, who wishes the other are their rivals to do well? Not me, definitely not me. But should we get started with the questions, Lama?
Of course you can. Go for it. You get cracked on.
Brilliant. So the question that we tend to ask all of our guests, Jake, is really how you got into FPL. I know we briefly spoke about this just before coming on, but it'd be good to understand how long you've played the game. Have you always played it seriously, and what was the turning point, if not?
Sure. So, if you look at my history, people talk about in this game the history. I've got 7 seasons. This is the 8th, but I wouldn't say I played it seriously until 2016, probably. I was in the 3 seasons before that. I was one of them we call dead accounts. I would just play until October. Realise that I've chosen a shit team and sort of pretend that I've forgotten my password or something. And then one year, I played it like a casual would these days. 1 transfer per week, no clue about double game weeks or blank game weeks, or even I mentioned Dabuna before the call. I didn't really know what the chips did, and I remember there was a chip called All Out Attack, which I seemed to never used. I was sort of scared of it, and anyway, I did okay that year. I came 25,000.
Nice.
And then I guess like you sort of, when you're successful, you just think, I'm suddenly interested. And then since then, I've done okay. I think I came 900,000 the year after. But again, I did stopped playing after in about March. The reason why I stopped playing that year was I'm a Man United fan, and we signed Alexis Sanchez that year.
Yeah,
and I owned Sanchez at the time, and I also owned 2 United strikers. I think I owned Lukaku and another, I don't know who. And I read the rules, and I was like, well, if Sanchez goes to Man United, he's the third Man United player. I'll have 3 players, but I can't have the 4th unless I sign a Man United player before he signs. Okay. So I went out and signed another Man United striker. Then Sanchez got transferred. So I had 4 Manchester United attackers in my team. And I seem to remember that Sanchez was terrible. I captained him every week. I was blind to loyalty to my club rather than playing FPL. And I seem to remember he missed a penalty against Huddersfield, tapped in a rebound, but it was still a terrible score, and I just sort of lost my head and just stopped playing that season.
I can understand why you would lose your head at Sanchez, to be honest. That, for Man United, has got to be the most expensive pianist that they've ever signed, because I think that's all he did.
Yeah.
He came in, played the piano, got whatever hundreds of thousands a week he was on, and then got shipped out pretty fast. So
that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. So I know, like you were saying there about like the kind of ups and downs that not just you, I think we all experience them, with regards to FPL. But see, in regards to like Odds Checker, for example, one of the
No, stop. Jake, Jake's not told us yet about his best ever finish, has he?
No.
Go on then, Jake.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right, mate. Last season I came 113th.
What?
113, but
13.
But it's he's still a little bit pissed off about it, though, right, Jake? What happened on the final day of last game week last season?
So the last game of the season, I was lucky enough to be privy to the news that Trent was being rested. You know, their Liverpool team came out before. Anyway, I was privy to that news, set my team up perfectly, and I was on live FPL about 88 minutes, and I was 95th or 94th, something like that.
Perfect.
Then Eric Peters got booked, and it took away his bonus points, and then obviously the -1 for the booking, and then I dropped out of the top 100 and went to 113, which obviously I'm not chewy about. I mean, I talk about it every day, but
it's amazing.
It's a travesty, mate. To be honest, if that was me, I'd be gutted. I would definitely.
It's so funny though, Buna. Do you not think that
No.
So you've obviously told us your story there, Jake. We had Ola, for example. He was number 1 at the time a few months ago. I think he's second at the moment this season.
He is,
but
yeah.
he's pretty much said exactly what you said, because we were like, Buna had asked him, so what would you be happy with if you didn't finish first? And he was like, well, as long as I finish in the top 50. And and Buna and I at the time were like 600 and odd thousandth or whatever. But
yeah.
So there's like, you're similar. You were sniffing away at double digits and absolutely gutted with the triple digit. But for me, looking at it from the outside, I'm like, wow, 113th.
It's a phenomenal season, isn't it?
Aye, it is. Yeah.
Phenomenal. How do you kind of continue from that? Because even this season, Jake, you're having a brilliant season by most manager standards, and even for someone, for the years that you've played it's a brilliant season. But from speaking to you ahead of this particular stream, you were a bit like, I'm not sure, you weren't entirely happy with it. So coming off the back of last season, did you set yourself a target, and was it higher than it usually would be?
Aye, that's a good question. I like that, Buna.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'll be honest. So, to tell you listeners, I'm sat at 86,000 right now.
Nice.
And my highest rank this season has been 33. And that was on game week 26. I'm on the FPL website now. I'm just going to go down. So that was the 27th of February. And I have a feeling, Buna, that you were in my DMs around that time.
Oh, don't tell me Buna got in your head, Jake.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, look, I'm going on this podcast.
I DM'd you.
Yeah, when was it?
One sec, I'm just double checking. I'm going to let you know. I need to verify this. February the 8th was
right.
game week 23.
So game week 23, I'm 43,000.
Right.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 red arrows. So listen, I blame the FPL Lounge for this.
Whoa.
I think
Take
I
that
think it
back
was
a step.
I think it was-
Bruno's the blame.
I personally think it was your house move, man. It must have kept you quite busy.
Wow.
Yeah, to be fair, I did move house twice.
What?
So the research didn't happen.
So you didn't even put yourself through a house move once you decided that you loved it that much you'd do it again?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Mate, house moving's the worst.
Tell me about it, yeah.
So one of the questions that I was getting at, but I mean, at the end of the day, the finishing in that higher rank, I would be completely nosebleeding. So I'm interested to kind of, like, see where you working as you do within Odds Checker. One of the questions, Boona, who was it that actually asked it? It might have been Davey P.
Davey asked in the question, yeah.
So one of the questions that Davey had asked Jake is, are you able to kind of clash the two together at all? So like knowing what you know and how hard you work with regards to like Odd Checkers and the other sites, when you're putting that into FPL context.
It's an interesting one, because a lot of people that we speak to, Jake, we usually say, how do you make your decisions? And majority of the time, the options we suggest, because they seem to be the most popular, are, is your main focus eye test or stats? But in your case, you've got the access to the odds as well, which I guess it, kind of is stats as well. What is your main backing, if you like? Kind of what do you base your decisions on?
It's eye test, really. I mean, I've been a football fan. Yeah, eye test. I've been a football fan all my life. I'm sure we all have, and I've watched football long before I was into FPL. You sort of know who the creative players are. You know who the goal scorers are. You know that Burnley keep 10 clean sheets a season. You know that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm ever trawling statistics websites looking for, should I go for Zaha or Maddison? Like that's not my game. I fancy Zaha here because City play a high line or something like that. Those more intuitive things you get from watching football, as opposed to like Zaha created 5 chances last game week, Maddison created 6, so I'll go for Maddison. When actually it's a multitude of things, as we all know, like form, fixtures. It's the same for us all. But yeah, I would say I like to watch football.
Have you just gave up for the season already? Is that you on the beach?
This is I'm in my attic and there is a seagull.
You sound like you're in Brighton, Jake.
Give me a minute. I'm shut
the
window.
I just thought it was quite funny. We were talking about just, when they talk about teams just going on the beach for the rest of the season, and the next thing we get the seagull sound effect. Jake's done.
We're all done.
It's a sign. Brighton are going to have an absolute brilliant game at the weekend.
I'm going to bring in Lewis Dunk, so I hope so.
Yes, I do have a Dunk in my team.
What you didn't really go into was, what sort of manager are you, Jake? Would you say you're what people class as a maverick that makes kind of outlandish picks? Someone a bit more dullard and let's say safe. Let's put a positive twist on it. Where would you say you sit?
I don't know if is the honest answer. And if you look at like I've been only playing this game like really seriously for a year. When I did well last season, like sort of getting into the FPL community and engaging in content. But last season, I just seemed to make the right call a lot, and that meant I over the course of the season I took 1 hit, and that's very conservative, isn't it? Whereas this season I felt like I've made a lot of errors in my judgment, and then therefore to rectify those errors I've made 12 hits, which is I think 48 points. So
okay,
it really. I don't think any manager should be like, right, I'm more dullard or I'm more maverick, because everybody's team is unique, and how the situation arises. One thing that I would say, one thing that happened a lot to me last year. I was tweeting about my success, and each week I'd just post my team, and I'd get a lot of questions about people's teams and say what move should I make? And I'd look at their team. We don't need to make any moves. Just bank the transfer, and that sounds very dullard and very safe. But if you look at like me in this last week, I played my wild card the week in game week 31. Then I banked my transfer because I always planned to, and now I've got 4 injuries. So if your team looks in shape, don't force a transfer because there's always an injury or a suspension around the corner. And then what happens if a suspension or an injury sort of gives you a hurdle into your plans? Then your usual plans might be, right, I'm going to take that change that fourth midfielder because he's not performing, or that second striker's not performing, and hasn't scored for 3 games. But now all of a sudden you can't take that bad performing player out because you've got an injury, because you were forced to transfer the week before. So I think it's a difficult one. I would say I'm right in the middle between Maverick and Dullard. I don't really know what I am. I've taken -8 this season, but then the season before I had 1 hit, and I think it was right towards the end when I was trying basically to win it. Because I last season my highest rank was like 24 or something.
Okay.
And I was 48th when the lockdown hit. I was 50th when the lockdown hit. But then across that sort of however long it was, when FPL was still playing, I went up 2 places. I don't know how I did, but the people above me must have been taking hits during the lockdown.
Aha, right, okay.
So
that's just that. Yeah,
I'll tell you what will differentiate whether you're, one way or the other on that scale, Jake.
Go on.
Effective ownership. Does it affect your captaincy decisions? Yes or no?
Exciting opportunity, we like to call it in the lounge.
Yeah, so this has been a bit of a point of discussion, isn't it, in the community for a few weeks. No, is the answer. I think when I've had my most successful seasons, 25k, and then last season, it's always about who's going to get the most points, because points is what the game's about. It's not about percentages of ownership. However, there has to be a nod to ownership. If you look at Harry Kane now in the top, if you're in the top 10k, you don't own Harry Kane, then you're looking at effective ownership, and you're trying to be different. Like, don't try and be different. He's the best striker on the game. His actual stats, his XG, and his FPL stats all marry. They're all going in the right direction. He's the best striker in the game, so you have to get Harry Kane. I know that I think like his ownership is like 99 point something %. So whoever doesn't have Harry Kane at the moment, they're going to be dropping out the 10k very soon. I always play the game, especially when you're picking a captain, who's going to get the most points this weekend. And often, am I still here?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, my laptop just went off.
Oh, right, okay.
Sorry, as long as I can still hear you. I often, if you look at effective ownership, often the top person or the top player is the best option. And I think there are times in the season where you can look at the options, and you can say, right, I can take a calculated risk here. If people are trying to like force a captaincy on a player who's playing well but the team isn't playing well, let's say, for instance, and you can take those risks once or twice a season, but really, like, just choose who you think is going to score the most points. And when you do that, then it's going to be Kane, Fernandes, Salah, like these players. Yeah. My final point on that is that I think that if you're the difference between a casual and a player who plays this game quite seriously is that I think the captaincy makes it so that casuals can do well in a season. If they nail their captaincies all season, then they can do quite well in this game without having to know about doubles and blanks and that kind of thing. So I like the captaincy. I think I hear that I hear lots of players say captaincy should go because it adds a sort of variance to this game. But variance is what makes it so accessible to the 8 million or so players that play it.
Yeah, and I think like what you were saying before about the eye test. I think naturally watching football, although Spurs haven't been maybe potentially firing on all cylinders, Kane was still getting in goals or in and around the box. So you would not. I was going to say naturally, but that's the wrong word. But even for me, and I'm more like what you were describing as that it's the eye test for me over stats. So Kane was always going to end up in the team anyway, just for what I'm seeing. But then you get backed up with the stats, like what you've just, like what you were pointing out, Jake. So, yeah.
So the season I was 25k, I didn't even know about ownership. Like I'm aware that it existed, but I didn't know how to find it, and I didn't even know that they would give that information out. It was just, I think, play the game, make decisions without ownership in mind, and then if depending on what type of player you are, I don't hold anything against those who say, right, Bruno Fernandes is 170% effective ownership this weekend, so I'm going to captain him because it sort of stabilizes your rank. I've got no problem with that. Do you know what I mean? If you want to play like that, that's fine. But I'm a points chaser, and if I think that Harry Kane's going to get more points than Bruno Fernandes, then that's the player I go for.
Yeah.
That was like me this weekend. Like the majority went for Kane. Don't get me wrong, this decision didn't pay off, or it was okay. It didn't burn me, but I went Son captain instead of Kane. But they ended up scoring
12 each
points. So yeah, exactly. So in most cases, that will happen. Those that are the most selected and likely to have the highest effective ownership are because they're players that majority think and believe are in form, and more often than not, they'll probably be there or thereabouts anyway, if not outscoring the captain that you go for.
Yeah,
I would say that if you want to play the effective ownership game, then you could captain the highest owned player, and then as your rank stabilizer, and then you can use the other 10 players to gain an advantage, knowing about the doubles and the blanks and what have you. That's a good way of playing, and if you're happy with 100k every season, then play that game.
Yeah, I think that's it, and I think you're totally spot on with what you've said, and Boona and I have said it. Ever since we kind of put the channel together, that it is as a friend of the show, Wiz, would say, play your own game, and there's so many ways you can play it, and I think that for me, that's the one thing that I enjoy about FPL. Just try different things, and you'll find out what works, what doesn't. But at the end of the day, as long as you're enjoying it, that's the main thing. So there's a lot of people just
play your own game.
Yeah, there's a lot of people just fall out of love with football, and you're like, because of FPL, and you think, well, that's kind of arse for tit here, You mentioned there, Jake, about the captaincy and people saying about doing away with the chip and all the rest of it, and quite rightly, as you say, it's something that you would want to keep in. One of the questions, Boona, that we like to ask our guests is to do with the FPL. So, Jake, if you were in charge of FPL and the head of FPL Towers, and you might well be the way you're going, would you change anything in FPL? And if you would, what would it be and why?
What would I change? Is that rule last season that gave everyone a wild card, whatever it was? Because I'd already played mine. I went from 48th after lockdown to 113th. I changed that fucking rule, I tell you.
You wouldn't be the only.
No,
I have no idea why.
yeah. I don't know. I think I'm a part of a couple of where I think it would be good if you got the chips for both halves of the season. So just like you do the wild card, I think that would be a nice change.
Oh, okay.
So you get 2 triple captains, but you only get your second one after the new year. I think that would keep more people engaged. But then you have the variance factor of you can be a proper casual and have 6 chips to play all year, and get into the top 10k by luck, and that's fine. Like, people play differently. I think what I would sort is like I want my, and the cash leagues have made it easier and better for my friends to continue playing throughout the year, but more having a double the chips would make the casuals more invested, and because I like to talk about this game with my friends, and it often, not in maybe the last couple of seasons they played on, but often everybody be done by November, and nothing to talk about.
So that was one of the reasons when Boona, Matt and I got together, we introduced a lit tournament, we called it, and it was to start on the 1st of January, basically whatever, I can't even remember what game week it was, and it was for that exact reason, Jake, knowing that the seasons, especially Boona, who's played it longer than I have, a lot of people do tail off or drop off right around Christmas. They're like, oh, I'm ranked 2 million or whatever, what's the point? So we thought, well, why do we not just introduce a free tournament for everyone with good prizes to just try and keep them invested in it,
I love that.
That's definitely worked, because it's there's a few hundred in it, like, right enough. But yeah, it was for that reason.
What happens at Christmas? What happens at Christmas as well is everybody's off work. People see their families. The games come thick and fast. People forget about the deadlines, and that just switches people off.
Yes, but no, I like that idea, Boona, that Jake was saying there about the double chips, first half of the season, second half of the season, because what I find now, like, I'm quite happy to own up about this. When I first played,
many people exhaust them early on. You're probably one of them, right?
No, it's not that. Like, when I first played it, I didn't know what a chip was, what it was used for, so I was just dishing them out. I didn't know I only got one, so I was just playing it. I didn't know that you had to even make substitutions week in, week out, I just didn't understand it. But I think now knowing, not with my rank, but knowing how the game can be played, or I'm not saying should, because there's so many ways you can play it, people straight away are saying, right, the chips are getting left to the end of the season, because I guarantee you, or there's a big likelihood there's going to be a double game week in March, April kind of time, like straight away, right from game week 1. So, like you say, Jake, if you've got the chance to use the chips first half of the season, yeah, I think that would be good. I like that. What about you, Boona? Are you for that?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I definitely think it makes the game a little bit more competitive and exciting, especially towards the latter end, because I can imagine, that's the one reason why a lot of people kind of just give up, especially when they're X points adrift. But those chips can help them gain some good ranks, to be honest, and I could definitely be doing with them right now.
Yeah. So, Jake, earlier on, like me, you're a Man United supporter, so well done you. Would you say that Man United influence your FPL decisions at all in any way?
Not anymore. Not anymore. Now I play it as a game, like as FPL. Every team is equal to me. Right, but definitely in the past, I'd be like, nah, I'm not bringing in Salah, no chance. Yeah. I'm not Salah, because he's been in Liverpool for not so long. But I don't think I ever owned Torres. I don't think I ever owned Suarez. Like that hurts, doesn't it? When there's a good player that you just can't bring in because your loyalty gets in the way. Yeah. Then. I know there's a story of the guy who he won FPL, who's a Liverpool fan. No, he's an Everton fan. And he won, and he doesn't bring any Liverpool players even to this day. Yeah. But it was because Liverpool were shite. But you can't. I could not bring City players in because I'm a United fan. Like, where would I be in the world? Like 2 million.
Yeah. And I guarantee you've had at least Bamford or Dallas in your team with Leeds this year. Yeah.
I mean, Bamford, Dallas. Yeah, they're a good value, aren't they? So you can't play the game like that. You've got to play it like emotionless. I feel.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've got my usual last question, Boona. Do you want me to ask it, or is there anything else you want to find out about Jake before we dive into the kind of online questions, if you like?
No, you go for it, mate, and then we'll start going through the chat and online questions.
Cool, nice one. Right, Jake, you need to put yourself in a situation here. So just get your mindset ready. It's the final seconds of a Champions League final, Jake, and you're through on goal, 1-on-1 with the keeper. You're just about to lace the ball with your boot when out the corner of your eye, you see your strike partner standing there. Now you know, Jake, if you pass to your strike partner, he's surely not going to miss. He's got an open goal, the keeper's 1-on-1 with you. However, Jake, the ball's at your feet. So what are you doing in that situation? Are you smashing it or are you passing it?
Well, first of all, this is bollocks because I am not going through on goal. I'm so slow. I'm at the halfway line, cheering him on.
Brilliant. Everyone's a loser in the chat.
No. So if listen, I don't play anymore. I'm 33, so legs are given up. But when I did play, I was midfield, and like assists were my. I would prefer, like at Ozil, I prefer an assist to a goal. I would definitely pass. Like if a passing and I'm winning the game. Winning the game is better than scoring. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not a Ruud van Nistelrooy type that would be pissed off with a 3-1 win and not scoring. Like,
Yeah.
I would rather win the game, and I'd pass.
Nope, that is fine. It was your choice. You chose to pass. There's quite a few guests that we've had on that are the same as you. And then there's a hell of a lot like Buna that are just total selfish, smashing it all day and all that type of stuff. But it is what it is. That's why we're all individuals. Right, Buna, you want to dive into the online questions and what the chat have been hitting. But thanks, Jake, for getting to know you better.
A very topical question around the Super League from Nihal. Surprisingly, we've come 40 minutes without mentioning this absolute fast of
we've done well.
a tournament. Well, before I ask this question, Jake, your thoughts on this?
Oh, listen,
Honest thoughts, you can swear on it, by the way.
I was so fucking disappointed in my club. And I honestly thought it would happen because I just think a lot of bad things has happened in the world recently, and I just thought it was definitely going to happen. And in my head, like I said, I've recently moved house, and I'm now living in Somerset in Yeovil. And I was contemplating, right, am I going to support Manchester United, continue supporting them in the Super League? Probably not. And that would mean that in the Premier League, they're going to rest players. I don't want to support this club that just sells their soul. So I made my peace with it, and I was going to be a Yeovil fan.
Wow.
And I was, and then obviously the U-turn, the couple of day U-turn. At first, I thought, what a maybe it's all been planned this way so that clubs could have their say on the new Champions League format. I didn't really know, but now that Woodward has resigned and now that Agnelli has gone and from Juventus, I don't think it's as calculated as that. I do think it was just like a load of plonkers getting together thinking, well, let's make a Super League, and they fucked it royally, and I'm so pleased they fucked it.
Yeah, definitely. I've not really spoken to you much about it, Buna, as we were talking about actually before we went live, but similar to Jake, I'm kind of the same, bit embarrassing, surely not, surely this can't happen. And then when I found out who was all behind it, including obviously the Glazers and that, I was like, fuck, this could actually go through here.
Disgraceful, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, I've not asked you outright, so, I suppose asking you outright then, Buna, where was your head at when this was all kind of whistling over the 72 hours or whatever it was?
It was weird because it was the other night. It wasn't even long ago, and it didn't feel real. I didn't want to sleep. I was like, seriously, what the fuck is going on? This can't be serious.
Yeah.
It was one of those. It was a case of disbelief, to be honest, and I was so glad that it didn't amount to anything in the end. I don't know if other clubs would have followed I think, is it Man City or was it Chelsea that withdrew first?
I think Chelsea might have went out first and then City were next, something like that.
It was one of those two, but yeah, apparently there was a club that was never fully invested in it and just went along, and I think it was City. I mean, if you think about it, at the end of the day, the Arabs don't really need this money. They've got more than enough money.
Yeah.
And yeah, the others kind of just followed, didn't they? I think that the absolute plonger and absolute twat in all this was Florentino Perez, the Real Madrid guy, wasn't he? Absolute tosser.
It's quite funny that it was.
I think he's still talking now. He is.
Yeah, I was going to say that he's not. He's still determined that it's going to happen. I mean, actually, that's one of the first questions that came in the chat from Nihal. A question for Jake. Jake, what are the odds of the Super League starting again in the coming season? Gundogan's not happy with the new UCL format.
That's it, Jake. That's an entire second question. Ignore that Gundogan comment for now. But what are your thoughts on the Super League starting again in the coming season? Do you think it's done and dusted and they've seen sense, or?
Well, I think I would say that it's been a heavy defeat for the people who want a Super League. So, I mean, you look today on at Red Issue on Twitter, Manchester United fanzine. They were all out. They were out Farrington, blocking the route into the training ground. Like, this isn't over. Just because they've all pulled out. This isn't over, and I think I've seen sort of journalists in the know talk about clubs that are now thinking of selling. I don't think it'll happen, and I think that there's been, like, in recent times, you think about like things like Brexit and the in the UK, sorry, in Brexit and the general election. Yep. It's the country divided, and with this, I've never seen such a flood of hatred towards an idea.
Yeah.
And I'm so pleased. I'm really pleased that, like, you didn't see the odd person being like contrarian and hipster saying, "Well, it might be good, and here's why I think it might be good." Everyone was fuming.
There's a massive benefit that's come out for you, Man United fans, though, that no one's really spoken about. And that's Woodward.
Well, yeah, but he's
exactly,
still there. Yeah, he's still there at the end of the year, though. I thought he was actually.
End of June, isn't it?
Yeah, is it? I thought
end of the calendar year. Yeah.
End of the calendar year.
Yeah. It's end of 2021. Yeah. I mean, I actually thought it was there and then, but then I found out it was like the end of the calendar year or whatever it was.
These people are businessmen, and they've come up with this idea to make. Hello?
Yeah, you're still in it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No,
these people are businessmen, and they've came up with this idea to make more money from what they perceive as a business, but it's a football club. Yes, it should be run like a business, but only in the loosest terms.
Yes.
Ed Woodward is a great businessman. He's not a great CEO of a football club, and there's a difference. You cannot treat a club like a loan. You have to run it like a business to an extent. Of course you do. That everything does. Let's be honest. But I think on the football side of things, he got it totally wrong, and I'm glad to see the back of him. And like Gary Neville said on Sky Sports the other night, he's the trunk of the tree. Now let's go for the roots, and let's go for the Glazers. Joel Glazer, I'm coming for you, son.
Yeah, exactly. I'm for that.
Yeah, massive credit to Gary Neville, by the way, because yes, I know a lot of people saying that, you know, he's not the one that caused the change, but if people at his kind of level didn't speak out, I'm not sure we would have seen other people follow through with it.
No,
it was brilliant to see. Moving slightly on though, did you see the tweet from Gundogan 45 minutes ago, Jake?
No, I'm on the internet right now.
That's fine. I'm going to read it out for the viewers as well. But feel free to bring it up. But what Gundogan has tweeted is, with all the Super League stuff going on, can we please also speak about the new Champions League format? More and more and more games. Is no one thinking about us players? The new UCL format is just the lesser of the two evils in comparison to the Super League. The UCL format right now works great, and that's why it's the most popular club competition in the world for us players and for the fans. And I think he's spot on. For those that aren't aware, I believe the new format, albeit it's from 2024, I believe it's due to start, so still a few years away. The clubs in the competition will be increasing up to 36, and it will be a league format as opposed to groups. What difference is that to the Super League? Not much, really, if you think about it.
I think that's the thing, though. Sorry, Jake.
Sorry, go on.
No, it's fine, pal.
You chat.
I was just going to say, like,
Lads.
I think, like, at the end of the day, millionaires want to become billionaires, and it just kind of keeps climbing from that. I think, as you're saying there, Boona, that there isn't really much of a difference now to an extent when you weigh up the kind of new format, etc. But I think you've also got it, and I'm sure Neville or other people in TalkSport, etc., mentioned these kind of points, but I think you've got to look into UEFA and FIFA as well, because how they've came out of all this squeaky clean's beyond me as well, because, they're not exactly saints of the business, are they? With all the corruption malarkey that they've been, they've had kind of clouding them. So I think there's quite a lot can be done to kind of just make it a bit better. One of the things that I did hear today that I thought made perfect sense was, I'm just trying to think what it is, like in telecoms, you've got Ofcom that kind of govern all the telecom companies. And I'm just wondering if something like that could or should be introduced for football. So you have like a kind of almost like an overseer that actually means that stuff like this just wouldn't happen. Because it couldn't. Because at the moment, there's nothing like that in place. So what's not to say is, I know, the chat there were kind of joking about it, but what's not to say that someone just goes and puts this together next season? Does it a different way?
Absolutely. I've got a question for you, Jake. So these clubs,
Go on, bro.
They've sort of made their bed, and they should really be lying in it. But I'm not sure if they're going to be made to lie in it now that they've retracted. Point being, do you feel that those that were part of this should still be kicked out of the Champions League, and those that lost the reverse fixture be given the opportunity to make their claim again for that title? And do you think the clubs should see any points deducted? Now, this is quite a controversial topic because people are saying, well, it's not the clubs, it's not the players that have done all this. Where do you stand on that? I've seen that quite a hot topic right now as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see the arguments, the various arguments and various outcomes of like the sort of sanctions we could see. I would say that I think this genuinely. I think this has come from the American owners and Florentino Perez, and I think they like if you sanction the club, dock them points and what have you, you're sort of hurting the fans because we've all supported our club this season and what have you. Do we really want to be sort of sanctioning the club? Should we just not just kick these idiots out of football? That's where I'd want to go. Like the flood and the tidal wave of non-support for this idea. I think Gary Neville summed it up again, to just name drop him again. Like he said, mobilise, organise. Let's all football fans mobilise and organise. Get these fuckers out of football. Yep. And then we know football isn't perfect. We know there's the top clubs will always be the top clubs as it is at the moment. They get paid the most money, TV rights. Football isn't perfect. We know that, but going to a Super League model, just because football isn't perfect, like I'd rather shit in my hands and clap than than watch a Super League match.
I mean, someone tried to compare it, I heard on TalkSport during the week, to when they broke away and created the Premier League. In '92 or whenever it was.
I mean, look, like the difference is, and the difference is the pyramid. And that's the point I would make about your question earlier, Boone, about Gundogan. I agree with Ilkay Gundogan. I agree with his tweet. And the Swiss model, this Champions League new model, isn't. I mean, I'm open to the idea. It's not ideal. I like the Champions League as it is now, but is that because I'm scared of change? I've heard arguments that the Champions League doesn't really come to life until February, so it's just a lot of nonsense before that, a lot of boring games, like Liverpool beating Karabag fucking 4-0, whoever it is, and and like I like the Champions League as it is. I think what Ilkay Gundogan's getting at is that there's more football matches, and we already putting players through too many football matches. Yeah. I think what this will do at the end of it is make squads bigger, and when squads get big, and because more money is coming in because of these, there are more games. It will just be a talent hoarding again. Whereas the bigger clubs get even more big players, and it will just exacerbate the issue that we have right now of the big clubs always being the big clubs. Mm-hmm. And Chelsea do it. You know about the Chelsea loan system, I'm sure. It's just talent hoarding, and it's just making making the playing field unfair, and that has to stop.
No, definitely. No, thank you very much for that. Yeah, the chat, as you can see, Jake and Buna is going nuts over that topic quite rightly. Paulie's just saying there that Jamie Carragher brought up about the PL breaking away in '92, and after Sky made that statement, they weren't included in the discussion of the Super League. I guarantee you one thing, or well, I'm not guaranteeing it, I wouldn't bet my mortgage on it, but see if that Super League did go ahead, pretty certain Sky would cover some of the games. Do you know?
Yeah. Oh, without doubt, they would. I guarantee you. They said they came out and they made a statement that they wouldn't. But you just know they'd already made their inquiries. 100%. It's a business at the end of the day.
Yeah. So earlier on, Jake was telling us about you sliding into Jake's DMs, Buna, and then after that happened, he kind of tumbled down the rankings a little bit. Team was having a go at you in the chat earlier. I don't know if you've seen that, Buna.
Yeah, I saw that.
Convincing him to take a -12. Aye, very good, Buna.
It's a shame you've got no balls to go with your own decisions, team. But hey, that's not my problem. Jake, we spoke as well just before we came live on air about a particular injury that's surfacing the Twitter sphere at the moment. What's your thoughts on that?
Is it talking Diego Jota?
We might be, yes.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
No.
Yes. It's a very sore subject. I mean, I'm literally looking at my team now. I'm playing a wild card in game week 31. So I go into game week 33 with 3 injuries are flagged officially on FPL. Plus Jota will be the 4th injury. I've got Kane and Son who did blank this week. So as it stands, I'm going to set fire to my team, and the Jota news is unwelcome. Especially, it's not just unwelcome because he's on form, good player. They play Newcastle at home this week. That's a captainable shout.
It really is.
Yeah, I'm not delighted with that, and I believe the news. I think Jota might be one of those players, unfortunately, that just sort of plagued by injuries throughout his career. I think this will be 3rd.
Yeah, because he only just came back, didn't he? Like 2 weeks ago or something.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just kicked my team right in the bollocks then. Because I'm not having the bit.
Kicked. The Leicester game is just about to kick off.
Oh, that's right. It's 8 o'clock, isn't it? That kicks off. So Sam,
put that on in the background.
Sam did put in the chat. So for those tuned in, unaware of the team news, I'll just quickly run through it. Excuse my pronunciation of names. Schmeichel in goal, Fofana, Evans, Solancho, and Castagna. I always like saying Solancho.
Who's that?
Ndidi, Tielemans, Thomas, Maddison, Iniacho, and Vardy. West Brom have got Johnston, Townsend, Bartley, O'Shea, Furlong, Robertson, Maitland-Niles, Yoku Slu, what is it? Phillips, Pereira, and Diagne.
Your pronunciation's in the mud, mate.
Mate, it's like my FPL team this week. What a long game week this has been, and it just rolls right into the next one. Because there's not a game tomorrow.
Yeah, Arsenal, Everton rather. And Arsenal without Lacazette and Aubameyang. And guess who owns Lucas Digne? You bring on that 0-pointer. Just know it's going to happen.
Yeah, so that's a bit of that, like what you're saying, Jake, there about Jota. That certainly kicks my team into the gutter a little bit.
How is your team shaping up this week? What points are you on?
So I am currently on I'm 51 with a -4, so I'm on 47 with Iniacho playing just now. So hopefully break 50 anyway. Buna, you're all out, aren't you?
I'm 63 all out with my points off the 63 minus 8. Sorry, all out. What about you, Jake? This week, you said you're having a bit of a mediocre one by your standards.
So I was on 58. I've gone to 59 because Vardy starts. Nat Phillips didn't play, little hamstring tug. So my first sub, wait for it, is Craig Dawson, sent off for -3 points.
Charlie, that hurts, mate. That's painful.
Yeah.
Mate, I started Dawson.
What's worse, that or last season's game week 38?
Did you bring that up again?
Would I do that, Jake?
Donna Kapower has got an FPL question for us, Jake.
You're going to say Donna Kebab there.
Who should I transfer in for Son and Gundogan? And they've still got their wild card left, believe it or not. So if you were doing any couple of transfers, who would you be bringing in there for Son and Gundogan?
Listen, if you've got your wild card, play it this week. Partly because there's a lot of injuries knocking around. In my team, you've got Nat Phillips.
Iheanacho's through.
Suspense.
Oh, what has he done? He should have buried that. He's a clown.
Well, he smashed it. He should have passed it.
Maddison shoots over the bar. Sorry, carry on.
No, that's all right.
Oh, good, mate. I'm glad he's missed, by the way. So yeah, look at my team. I've got Nat Phillips, Harry Kane, Dawson, Neto flagged. Then if you look down the list of, I'm just on this site now. So let's have a look down the list of forwards. So there's some good players like flags at the moment. Antonio would be fairly highly owned. Ings has got a flag. Lacazette's out. If I were you, I'd play that wild card. The guys in the chat saying I'm 90%. Make that 100%. Play that wild card now. And the earlier you play it, not the earlier, of course not, but now at this stage of the season, the earlier you play it, the more benefit you will get towards the end of the season. And playing it now while it's a blank, I think you could gain on your mini league rivals, especially if you don't go for if you go for maybe one city as a maximum. Then that's what I'd do. Play that wild card. But in answer to the question, which ones, which particular players were we talking about?
It was Son and Gundogan that he was thinking of taking out. So really, just looking to see who you would think are good picks to bring in. I would imagine. It's hard though, Jake, because you don't know who else is in their team. So
it's difficult, yeah. But I would say, listen, keep Son. Because they run into Sheffield United after that, and there's going to be a lot of people who see the Son and Kane blank. They see this yellow flag on Kane, and they're going to take him out. It'll be better keep him in and keep him in that Sheffield United game. Their captaincy options for that Sheffield United game. I was keep Son definitely. I'm keeping Son.
Do you think? Because I've been tempted to get rid of Son and Kane just for a week. But that's the sort of player that I am.
Where are you in the world?
591k at the moment. I'm having a shocking season.
I mean, it's not terrible, but flopping out players in and out is probably why you're 591.
Yeah, you're not wrong, mate. You're not wrong. We had a question from John Harris as well. One of our regulars, Jake, and he basically asked, "What's the most hits you've taken in a single game week?"
Oh,
I don't know. I mean, this season, I've done a -8. I don't dislike the idea of a -12, and you call it like a mini wild card, especially if you had the 2 frees and you wanted to change your team up. I've got no problem with that, especially if it's in a week where blankers, so therefore your -4 is actually -2. I would say is that don't make a habit of hits. Like go back to basics. Pick players who play 90 minutes. Pick players who don't get injured. Pick players who are talisman for their team. Don't go for like Trossard. Like unless it's. I mean, I did have him for that one that game against Brighton. I did have him then, and he was my captain. Like he's that was only because there was such a big blank game week. Like he's not a player to get beyond that.
Yeah.
I tell you what, my style of play has not worked this season, but it has the 2 previous seasons. I finished 36k last year and 3k the year before, and in each of those seasons, I took at least 30 hits.
Yeah.
So it's a strategy that's worked for me, but this season it's just really not worked.
I think this season, we spoke about it last week, Boona, didn't we? That it seems to be a bit more templatey this season. And if you're trying to do the kind of Maverick type moves that we would normally make, they're just not paying off.
My main issue this season's been my trust in Raheem Sterling, and he's just fallen off a cliff significantly. And he did really, really well for me in the last 2 seasons, so I trusted, I put trust in him as a result of that, and expected him to kind of do well, but really hasn't lived up to expectations. In fact, he's just shown what a shit footballer he really is. Apart from speed, he offers very little. What are your thoughts on Raheem Sterling generally?
So I've had Raheem a couple of times this season, and captained him to a classic 2 or 3 pointer, because he's low, and we talked about ownership earlier. He's lowly owned, and you just feel like in last season when I did well. I used to say I caught all the hat tricks. There was, I think, there's a Aguero hat trick, there's a Salah hat trick, there was the Antonio 4 goals. I caught all these players and had them most of the time captain. I feel like there's going to be in any Premier League season 4 or 5 hat tricks. If you can catch 80% of those, 70% of those. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like Raheem Sterling is one of those players.
That's it. That's
has
why
a hat trick in his locker.
Recently. I bought him in for Leeds, mate. You know that game recently where there was rotation and we knew there was going to be rotation. Madison's through. Oh.
Well, Plonkers and Aaron's in. Evening to you. Evening to Brew, by the way, and to Chloe, who also joined us, and Runner as well. That's a name I've not seen in a while. Hope the 3 of you are doing good alongside everybody else. But Aaron and TC have just jinxed themselves by typing Raheem the Dream Boona in chat at the exact same time. How often does that happen?
Mate. He's an absolute shit twat.
Yes. So what are we doing this week then? What's the plans this going into the next game week? Because it is tomorrow. So Boona, where's your head at? And Jake, where's your head at?
I'm doing so shit this season that I'm not playing template. I don't care now. I'm just doing some wild moves and seeing if they can pay off, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't have Bruno. I'd have to get rid of Son and Kane to get him in, so I'm not going to do that. Greenwood is someone I'm considering, as well as Maddison and Vardy. What are your thoughts on Greenwood? The only issue for me, Jake, is fixtures thereafter. And as much as I want to take a punt on someone, I don't want it to be just a 1 week punt right now.
No, listen. He's a good footballer, isn't he? He's he's a good finisher, left foot, right foot. I like him. I'll go back to that point I made earlier. 90 minutes. You can try. You're not checking your phone an hour before the game to see if he's starting. You want to see that player. You know that player is going to be starting.
Yes,
and that's like half the battle, and especially at this time of season when teams are still in cup competitions. Don't let yourself sleep at night and pick Bruno Fernandes, not Mason Greenwood. Even like Cavani. I thought last week, let's get Cavani in, and I was and ahhing all week, thinking I'll bring in Edison.
He's had his rest now though. He's playing against Leeds, surely.
But that's what I mean. But then I thought about last week, and he got rested. So I'm so pleased he didn't do it. I mean, he did come on score. I know, but you don't in this game. You're not looking for players to come off the bench and score. It's 90 minutes. It's players who you can trust to be in and around the points when it matters. And 2 years, 3 years time, he'll be first name on the team sheet, and then it'll be first name on your FPL team sheet as well. Yeah. But for now, the 1 week, I mean, then they go into Liverpool at home, Leicester after a couple of game weeks after that. I'm not sure. The only thing going for is his price.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Very good to hear.
What price is he? Is he in around the Jota price?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's 0.3 more, 7.1.
He could be quite a popular transfer in this week in that he's on form. If Jota's injured, it could be a quite popular one.
Yeah.
Well, I doubled up this week, boys. That's what I did. So I have Iniacho and Vardy up top.
Can you spell his name for me, Llama?
Yep, Indigo Hotel Echo Alpha.
Yeah, so stop there. Indigo Hotel, not Indigo November, right?
Okay. All right. So I'm doubling up this week, but now with this news with Jota, I don't know if I'm going to need to do something there, because at the moment I've probably only got about 9 or 10 players. I don't really want to take hits or many more hits.
Of course you do, you live for them.
And I liked Jota, I like doubling up with Salah, especially with Liverpool's fixtures, because they can't be shite for the rest of the season. But what about you, Jake? What's your head at? Sorry, Jake.
Before you answer that, Jake, what's your thoughts on Trent right now in his current form?
For me, on my wild card, it was either Trent or Vardy. And what swung it was that if I go for Vardy, it means I don't go for Iniacho. Iniacho is highly owned, and I thought that I was trying to be too clever and went for Vardy over Trent, which meant I for Nat Phillips, and he's now injured, and it's a regretful move. If I were going back, and of course it's easy to say going back in hindsight, but he's still a great option in this game. Like what was he doing in the box, on that side of the box, in that last minute of that game, and then pitching it in the bottom corner? What was he doing there? Did you
see? It was crazy.
Nah.
He couldn't even see the goal. Like there was about 15 players in his way.
Just pinged it bottom corner, and he's got that in his locker, isn't he? And I think that's why he's the value he is. I started the season with Trent and Robbo, thinking that again trying to be clever, thinking that the value at 7.5 would trump the likes of Salah at 12s, and I didn't captain Salah first game, and I got off to a pretty bad start this year. I love. Listen, Trent might be in my team again next year at the start, because he's got it all. When Van Dijk and Gomez are back, he's got goal potential from free kicks, got assist potential from set pieces and out wide, and clean sheets every other game when those boys are in. So
yeah, and Liverpool, as I was saying, have definitely got the fixtures. Man United's always going to be one of those iffy games, because we know that United will win that no problem, even though it is at Anfield. But apart from that, the fixtures are pretty decent. The chat boon are wanting you to get Sterling back in, by the way.
Well, yeah, the chat absolute wankers, aren't they? Of course they do.
Cool. Well, I don't have any other kind of questions, unless there's any. Brew was just asking there about the Jota injury. Yeah, so Jake was letting us in on that just at the start of the stream, Brew. So it's been, in the last hour or so, I think, Jake, that kind of started filtering through the waves.
That's an interesting
so
comment.
what price Jota?
Have you seen this?
What's that?
Jake, just really quickly, have you seen this? Nihal said Trent has got the same amount of bonus points in the last 4 games. 12. Has he got 3 bonus in each of the last 4 games? Surely not.
I don't know.
Let's have a look. He bloody well has. 12 points in the last 4 games through bonuses alone is the same as Bruno has got total points in the last 4.
Wow.
That's crazy. That's crazy. What a player. I am tempted.
Interesting. So, Jake, are you revealing any moves for us, or are you keeping your cards close to your chest?
I mean, I would say that when fans are in, I tend to make my decision about transfers early on. Like, say, even before the Monday Night Football, I know what move I'm going to make. I wait until the Friday, and then I make it.
Okay.
You wait for things like team news and the European fixtures. But this year, when you have a bad game week, it's death by 1,000 cuts, isn't it? I mean, the game week just goes on and on and on. and you kind of can't plan too far ahead because like, even tonight there's a bloody game, and I haven't given it too much thought. I don't like the Friday deadlines. They really get to me. I'm like I mentioned at the start of this call. I'm a busy person, and Fridays are one of our busiest days. So a Friday deadline really puts me under pressure. I haven't given it too much thought. I've got 2 red flags. Neto's out for the season, and Dawson suspended. So those are the 2 I'll have to get rid of. The issue is that they're lowly priced, and it doesn't give me very many options, which is why I talked about Lewis Dunk 4.9, and that would have to mean that I go to someone like Saka in midfield for Neto, which doesn't fill me with a lot of hope and a lot of potential there. But I'm sort of stuck. I've got myself into this position by picking
Saka's not the worst.
In their injuries.
Saka's not the worst, though, is he? Really, to have as like your 5th?
Nah. As a footballer, he's a really good footballer. I really like him. He's got great technique. I think when he plays in his normal position, he's then for 5.1 he's a snip. But Tierney's injured and he's going to play wing back, and that's not for me. Like OOP player or OOP out of position player. Reverse OOP is not for me. That no. But I mean, I just don't really have a choice.
Trossard's an option at that price. You've got Trossard there, but
5.7. It's quite a lot
reliance,
more.
Though, isn't it? He's not a reliable player.
It's another player that I like as a footballer. I think he's got lovely technique, got quite lovely balance to him. But there's a difference in this game between a good footballer and a good FPL asset, and like he isn't it.
Oh, that's
but you'd say that about most people that are at a budget price, though, right? For security, you're really looking to go to those premiums in their respective positions. You know, so for example, defence, those 6+ millions. That's where your security lies.
I think I would prefer to go for players that aren't that good at football, but a good FPL asset. The likes of Thomas Souček, like he runs around a lot and he's in the box a lot.
Prime Alonso.
5.3. I don't know what I'm going to do. I mentioned to Boona before the call. I'm doing a long walk tomorrow, a little training walk.
Oh, okay.
And 8 hours. I'll be listening to a sort of FPL podcast. Might be listening to this one, and see if I can take some of my own advice.
No, definitely. Well, Boona, I'm quite happy for you to wrap things up if you want to. I just want to, first of all, on behalf of the chat, Jake, say thank you very much. I've loved talking to you, and again, it's another podcast that we've done, Boona, that it's now 8:20, and we've flew past the hour mark, and I didn't even know until I just checked the now there. So that's it is. It's crazy when that happens, Jake. But I hope you've enjoyed yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, very much so.
Thank you for letting us get to know you a little bit better. But for those that may not know where to find you, and you mentioned earlier that your fingers are in many pies, please do take the next minute or however long you need to pimp yourself out, Jake.
Listen, I used to care about followings, and I used to care about my Instagram, and I used to care about the way I looked, and actually I don't care now. I'm 33, I'm a dad, and just listen. I'm on Twitter, twitter.com/Match of the Dave, which is a play on Match of the Day, obviously, even though my name's not Dave. And yeah, follow me there. I mean, you'll see a lot of bad FPL decisions this year. You're too late if you wanted good ones. That was last year.
Oh, brilliant. And also, don't forget, folks, to check out all the great stuff over on Odds Checker and that, and as well as Who Scored too. Boona, do you want to say cheerio?
Yes, well, Jake, absolute pleasure having you on, pal. Love to have you on again at some point. I hope you've enjoyed yourself as well. Time has actually...
Yeah, I'll be open to that.
Bloody quick, hasn't it, to be honest? But thank you for everyone that's tuned in today. For those asking in the chat who we've got on next week, it's TBC, to be confirmed. we've got someone that has confirmed that they will be joining us. Someone that you'll all be pretty familiar with. We just need to confirm it. Someone by the name of Let's Talk FPL may be joining us. However, it's going to be slightly different. It will be a lunchtime stream midweek, Tuesday or Wednesday, potentially Thursday. I can't really reveal just yet. Around 12 o'clock. So that'll be Andy, Let's Talk FPL, joining us for about 30 or 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all really, really exciting. But other than that, guys, I wish you all the best with your transfer decisions for game week 33. Do I? Fuck. And, yeah, have a great weekend.
Nice one, folks. Take care, and we shall catch you all soon. Bye then now.
I found some better sounds no one's ever heard. I wish I had a better voice that sang some better words. I wish I found some chords in an order that is new. I wish I didn't have to rhyme every time I sang. I was told when I get older all my fears would shrink, but now I'm insecure and I care what people think. My name's Blurry Face and I care what you think. My name's Blurry Face and I care what you think. Wish we could turn back time to the good old days when the mama sang us to sleep, but now it's just